Have you ever been to an amusement park? Do you like roller coasters? Do you have an intense fear of being beheaded by a roller coaster? Probably don't join me when we delve into today's case. Case Closed is an episodic mystery series. Each chapter is called a file, like a police file. Some mysteries are only one file long. Off the top of my head, the only one I can think of is actually the first, so it may just be that the first one is a mystery long. Most of them are longer than one chapter, averaging like 3 to 4 chapters. The website dedicated to the list of cases generally calls them something different than the file names because it's encompassing the whole case. So we'll discuss it as we get there. So I will list the case, what case we're covering, the file names in each one, which files they are, and the publication date for the files, because I feel like it's very important that we all remember this series started in 1994. The website I used is Detective Conan World. I will link it in the description because it is very informative. It lists the volume, the chapter numbers, when each chapter was released, the anime season and episode, which I have a lot of questions about because like the English airing anime only has like 2 or 3 seasons, and the website lists like season 30, and I have a lot of fucking questions, okay? I have so many questions. If you end up watching the anime, tell me. I think it's a great resource too to be able to see what is anime specific, manga specific, what carries over from one to the other. In the English anime, like I said, there's only a few seasons, and there's whole characters and plot lines that are just cut because it makes more sense to end it without those included, which is devastating, having now read the manga and seeing what additional stuff there is for the anime to have included. If you didn't know, manga can be released as a volume each, or, a little bit more common, in a weekly publication. Comes out every week, bam! Chapter of this, chapter of that, chapter of the other. The larger publication that Case Closed comes out in is Shonen Jump, which is also the same magazine that did Naruto, Bleach. I believe they still do One Piece, because I think that's who Viz Media has. If you don't know, Viz Media is the media company that does the English translation work, English interpretation work for a lot of Shonen Jump series. There could be more attached to Viz Media, but those are the ones that I know for a fact go through Viz Media as the Shonen Jump series. Blah, 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 blah. You don't always have to subscribe to a magazine service, you just go to the bookstore on release day and pick up the magazine. Which, honestly, I think is probably a better concept than magazine subscriptions, but that's besides the point. So for Case Closed, each chapter or file was released in a weekly magazine, and is still released in a weekly magazine. Then, every 10, 12 chapters were pulled together to make one volume. Usually English readers would have to wait for the volumes to be released, so you would be waiting for a week, a month, a couple of months to get those volumes so you could read them. Or you could do something like Viz Media specifically has an app and a website where you subscribe so you can get the weekly chapters as they are translated into English instead of waiting for the volumes. It is up to you, it is up to how much money you want to spend. It does get pretty frustrating to have to wait, so that is why at one point I did subscribe to Viz Media, but I ain't got no money. So I don't anymore. On the other hand, for this manga specifically, there's like 99 volumes in English currently. We're still working on the English translation for a lot of them. It is not considered one of the more popular Viz Media productions, so they don't focus on it as much as they do things like One Piece. So there's not a lot of waiting. The first chapter is a single mystery. There are 2 more mysteries in Volume 1 that span chapters 2 through 5 and chapters 6 through 9, respectively. We'll get to them when we get to them, but just know that the first mystery is solved in 1 chapter. We will keep track of how many chapters each mystery is as we go along. For this first one, like I said, 1 chapter, 1 mystery, done. So let's start Volume 1 of Case Closed with Mystery 1. Here we go with a description of the volume from the publisher. Ghostly Already fucking wrong, Tiffany. Ghastly beheadings, bloody murders, and cold-hearted child abductions. Precocious high school student Jimmy Kudo uses his keen powers of observation and astute intuition to solve mysteries that have left law enforcement officials baffled. Hot on the trail of a suspect, Jimmy is accosted from behind and fed a strange chemical which physically transforms him into a grade schooler. Taking on the pseudonym Conan Edogawa, he attempts to track down the people who did this to him. But until he finds a cure for his bizarre condition, Jimmy continues to help the police solve their toughest cases. Can you crack the case before Conan does? No. As I mentioned in the introduction to this series, I get the English volumes on Apple Books because I don't have space for physical books. You can see this mess behind me, you can see this over here, even my closet. I don't have a lot of physical space to be keeping books, so I have them digitally. It does also make it a little bit easier for me to have screenshots so I can add it into the video as we introduce characters. I've decided that that's what I want to do. Apple Books specifically because I have a MacBook. That's it. It's not anything more intense than that. Now, originally, I was reading chapters on a fan translation site, like I mentioned before. Usually with fan translation, there's some mistakes or awkward translations because English may or may not be their first language. Importantly, in a lot of fan translations, they keep the original character names. They don't change the names. If they end up mistranslating the names, there's some room for error in some of them. But a lot of fan translations will give extra context to cultural moments and culturally specific practices, which I really like because it gives me more context to what's happening. I don't remember when or what manga I was reading because I have been reading them for such a very long time. Unregulated internet access in the aughts, okay? There was a lot that I accessed. I know so much about kink culture that has nothing to do with me, but was readily available on Google. Safe search was not originally a thing. But, long time ago, I was reading a manga at some point, and it introduced the concept of bowing to a kappa to defeat it. If you don't know, a kappa is a yokai, which is like a Japanese demon-ish. It's the closest translation you get. It's like a spirit. A kappa is like a frog creature. It's got a turtle shell on its back, but it kind of looks more like a frog to me. It has a bowl on top of his head, and when you bow, the bowl tips over and it spills out. So if a kappa's fighting you and you want to defeat them, all you do is bow. They bow back because it is polite and culturally expected, and then the water tips out of their head and boom, they're defeated. They do not make the little Mario noise. That's not something I would know without that fan translation because that's not a creature that is like readily available in folklore I had access to. So it's really cool to see those moments in fan translation sites where they're like, hey, just so you know, little translator notes at the end of chapters or in the middle of a chapter off to the side, squeezed in the margins of a page. I do love fan translation. I have such a warm place in my heart for it. As we mentioned in the introduction video, the original series was called Detective Conan, changed to Case Conan for the English serialization. Jimmy's name in the Japanese series is Shinichi. It is Jimmy in the English series. The publisher lists the release date as 2013 for this volume, but that's just not accurate. It may be when the volume was digitized and made available on Apple Books, but I do not think that 2013 is when this started being published in English. I don't think so. If you have knowledge that it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was 2013. Case Closed started in 1994, so for it to be translated only in 2013 when the anime itself aired years and years before that doesn't really make sense. Anyway. First mystery. Roller Coaster Murder Case. File 1. A modern-day Sherlock Holmes. Published January 5th, 1994. We have our opening scene. Jimmy Kudo, solving a murder. He's expositing. A husband's in a wheelchair with a broken leg. He's the murderer. He says he can't have... Don't you see his leg? It's broken. He couldn't have done all of these things. The killer had to climb out a window with a broken leg. Inspector McGuire, who's the police inspector who works the most often with Jimmy, confirms that he spoke to the husband's doctor. His leg healed months ago. He's been able to walk this whole time. He tries to run. Jimmy kicks a globe, hitting him in the head. He collapses, gets arrested. This is the cold open to the series. That is such an epic decision as a storyteller to just say, I could introduce this character as a detective, give you information. No. Fucking bam! Here he is, solving a murder, making sure the police can catch their guy. Action! We have a scene change. We have our title page, really, and then we have a scene change. We have some character building. Jimmy walks to or from school, really unclear, with his friend Rachel. They're childhood friends. We get information Rachel is the captain of the karate club and will, in fact, punch you. Her dad is a PI, and she asks what Jimmy will do if he solves too many cases, and her dad doesn't get any. Jimmy alludes to her dad being just not a good detective. Rachel punches a light pole. Violence. I love it. Jimmy plays soccer. He's good at playing soccer. Rachel asks if Jimmy would join the soccer club. It's so much safer than being a detective with the police. No. Jimmy starts an absolute fucking tirade about Sherlock Holmes. If you have no information about this series and you have never seen Jimmy Kudo go on a pages-long rant about Sherlock Holmes and why he was important and how Arthur Conan Doyle made the character and what about Sherlock Holmes made him so amazing, you are missing out, okay? He can fucking talk. It is special interest levels. He knows every word of every Sherlock Holmes detective novel. It is obsession. A very important note about our baby Jimmy. He loves Sherlock Holmes. He loves Sherlock Holmes. It's giving obsession. It's giving he drives people away talking about Sherlock. It's giving Rachel is fucking tired of hearing about Sherlock. They go back and forth. She says, write a mystery novel like your dad. He says, no, I don't want to write novels. I don't want to write about being a detective. I want to be a detective. There is no questions. There is no backup plan. There is no alternative. Jimmy Kudo will be a detective. They get ready to separate, and Rachel asks about tomorrow. Did you remember? Jimmy says, huh? Tomorrow? Rachel resorts to violence again. We love a queen. It is important that I note here that in real life, if you have someone who is resorting to violence when you upset them, that is abuse and that is not okay. This is a manga. It's essentially non-realistic. There's a lot of times where you will come across things that are also just of the time. In 1994, it was not nearly as don't hit your friends as it is today. Just as a side note. Back to our story. Jimmy promised to take Rachel to the amusement park, Tropical Land, tomorrow if she won the city tournament. Rachel ate and left no crumbs. Of course she won. Who do you think she is? They plan to meet at 10. We cut to the amusement park. We cut to Tropical Land, the scene of the crime. Jimmy is now once again talking about Sherlock Holmes. He proves a point by shaking the hand of the girl in front of them waiting in line. They shake hands. He says, a gymnast. She's like, how the fuck did you know that? Now, a fun fact about this scene is that Jimmy exposits a little bit more about how he figured it out, and he points out that when the wind blew, her skirt came up, and he saw vertical line bars, bruises on her legs, which would only come from gymnastics. And then when he shook her hand, she had the calluses that would be specifics to a gymnast. But he alludes to it being just like Sherlock Holmes. He can shake your hand and know what you do. Kinda, sorta. The girl in front of them in line is out with friends. There's 1 male and 3 females in this group. One of the women is dating the man. The other 2 are just friends. It's a friend group. They're on their little fun, great time. The man is a dick. That's all you need to know about him, because it doesn't really matter either way. Rachel loses her shit and tells Jimmy to talk about literally anything. Literally anything. Except Sherlock Holmes and Conan Doyle. She's tired. She hints at liking him, only to say, just kidding! We figure out that our friend Jimmy, he is crushing hard. He likes her. They get on the roller coaster. The ride goes up. It goes down. It goes through a tunnel. In the darkness, something happens. Cut 2. Section 1. What kind of mystery is this? Easy answer, there has been a murder. This is a murder mystery. The man they met in line, who was kind of a dick, has been beheaded. Straight up, fucking gone. Geyser of blood. Our murder victim's name was Kishida. A mysterious man wearing all black with a fedora says it was just an accident. Time to fucking go. Jimmy says, no, it's a murder. They call the cops. Inspector McGuire cuts through the crowd a few however long later. Sense of time is not really important. Jimmy's name brings fanfare. He's well known. They say, oh, this is Jimmy Kudo, the kid detective? How amazing! He's here, he's gonna solve it! Section 2. Characters in the story. First up are our recurring characters. We have our main boy, Jimmy Kudo, teenage detective. Rachel Moore, Jimmy's childhood best friend. Inspector McGuire, detective for the police. He knows Jimmy's skills and trusts his ability as a detective. They're reoccurring characters, and we love them. Inspector McGuire also has a very special place in my heart. Next are our chapter-specific characters, the other 6 passengers on the roller coaster. Kishida, he's the dead guy. He's not a suspect. Aiko, the dead guy's girlfriend, a suspect. Hitomi, the dead guy's friend, a suspect. Friend A. I don't think her name is listed at all, so not a suspect. Man in Black A and Man in Black B. They were both on the roller coaster car. They are just suspicious overall. There is no inclination that they killed this man, but they are just fucking weird. Why are they wearing black coats? Why are they wearing fedoras? Why did they wear those on a roller coaster? They're just sus. The Men in Black are also more suspicious because they do not want to stick around and make their impatience with this situation pretty well known. They say, I don't want to be here, this is an accident, who cares what happened to him, he was a dick, let's go. sus. Section 2.2, recurring characters to note. This case is pretty simple, with our only recurring characters to really keep in mind being Jimmy, Rachel, and Inspector McGuire, who we just introduced. Section 2.2, name changes. I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I will keep mentioning it until the day I die. I'm mad about it. Jimmy Kudo's name is changed from Shinichi Kudo. Rachel Moore was originally Ran Muri. Why did we change that? Inspector McGuire is known as Inspector Migure in the Japanese works. McGuire in English. They just figure it's got an M and a G and it ends in an E. It's close enough. I disagree. Section 3. What happened? Kishida was murdered. His head was cut off. Of the 8 passengers, there are 5 suspects. Kishida didn't kill himself, so he is not a suspect. Jimmy has already cried murder. Jimmy and Rachel didn't do it. We know that because they would never. That leaves Hitomi, Aiko, Friend A, and the Men in Black. It's safe to assume it wasn't Friend A because she does not get a name. There's a knife found in Aiko's purse. Everyone believes it was her. The police are getting ready to arrest her. Her friends are standing off to the side. How could you do this? We thought you were in love. What was the point? Section 4. Who done it? And why? Jimmy steps in. No. It was Hitomi. What? Jimmy points out that beheading is not easy and unlikely to be done using the knife found. Furthermore, why would she keep the weapon when she could have just thrown it at any time? Think about it. If you're going to stab someone with a knife, you're already on a roller coaster. Toss it. That shit's gone. It's not easy to find things that fall off a roller coaster. It is possible, but it's not easy. Jimmy also points out that a woman is physically unable to behead a man with a knife. There is a lot to be said about sexism in manga and its representation of women in manga. We will talk about it as we go on, but something to note is that the woman he is talking about is slender. She's thin. She's not shown to be athletic. So she probably would not have been able to behead him with a knife. Hitomi defends herself. She shoots back. I was sitting 2 rows in front of him. And you just said a woman wouldn't be able to behead him with a knife. So how are you saying that I planted the knife in her purse after I beheaded him if I couldn't have beheaded him? Jimmy counters. If you tied something around his neck and anchored it to the railroad tracks while the car is moving, the roller coaster would have done all the work. The force of the car going, the track staying stable. His head would have been cut off by whatever you looped around his neck. Jimmy puts on a demonstration. He gets the other police members involved. He wears a backpack while the safety bar comes down. It is one of the safety bars on roller coasters that come down across your chest over your shoulders, not the kind that comes across your lap. Those are not very common anymore, for the record. Using the bar for balance, you create space with that backpack you're wearing so the bar doesn't squish you into the seat. You create space so you're sitting a little bit further forward. You lean back at the correct time and shimmy underneath the bar. Using the bar that's still locked in place for balance, you just lean back, loop your rope or wire or string around his neck, and drop the anchor towards the track so it can just catch. Two fun facts about this little demonstration that Jimmy does. The roller coaster is not moving while Jimmy puts on this demonstration, so there is no danger to the police officer whose neck he really does wrap in a rope. The second thing is that's really not possible to really do on roller coasters anymore. if it's been a while since you've been on a roller coaster, so you're just not a roller coaster person, typically speaking, all bags, purses, and removable objects, even flip-flops, if you decide you're going to wear flip-flops to the amusement park, do not recommend, have to be left off to the side so they don't fall off, because what happens is if you've got like a loop or something like that, it can become a projectile and hurt someone. This is not really all that possible, but 1994 safety regulations were different. That is a fact. Hitomi hits back to Jimmy's demonstration. What proof? What proof do you have? Show me. Jimmy points out that as a gymnast, Hitomi would have amazing balance. She would be one of the only people on this ride able to actually lean over a moving roller coaster to drop something around his neck and not fall off the car herself. Also, when she was introduced, she had a pearl necklace. Where is it? It's gone. She replaced the jewelry wire with tougher piano wire so she could use it as a loop, carry it on her, and be done. Evidence missing. Premeditation. Lastly, Jimmy noted that before the blood spurted, something warm and wet landed on his face. The killer was crying. This matters because friend A points blame to the men in black. They're hella sus. Why wouldn't you suspect them? But why would they cry? They didn't know him. They had no personal attachment. Furthermore, Hitomi's tear tracks, they run sideways. She was crying on the roller coaster. Hook, line, and sinker. Hitomi breaks. She falls to the ground. She cries, blaming Kishida for his own death. They used to date in college, you know. Kishida dumped Hitomi so he could date Aiko. This amusement park was their first date. The necklace was a gift from him. She wanted to frame Aiko so she could suffer just as much as Hitomi did. There's a few panels of exposition about evidence. They found the pearl necklace with his blood on it. In Hitomi's purse, they found a bottle of pills. Hitomi was planning to kill herself after the murder. The case is solved. We cut to Rachel, seen crying, the death, the heartbreak. It was all so emotional, and she's just been hard. She asks Jimmy why he's not crying, and he points out he's used to it. He sees grisly crime scenes, and he's just unaffected. Therapy for my boy. Out of the corner of his eye, he spots one of the men in black acting strangely, because again, they are the most suspicious people you can imagine. I have a point about them later, but we'll get to it. He tells Rachel to go on without him. Go ahead, go home. I'm gonna go that way. And he chases after the man in black. Rachel has a foreboding feeling that she is not going to see Jimmy again as she watches him run. But she still leaves, because what else is she supposed to do? Jimmy stumbles across a cover-up operation. The president of a company gives the men in black money in exchange for evidence regarding his company's illegal activities. Jimmy is taking pictures with a fucking camera, okay? My boy is not being discreet. He gets caught, ambushed, hit on the head from behind. They'll kill him. The men in black debate how to murder him. They say it can't be a gunshot. That's too loud. That's too notable. The police are already here because of the murder. We can't just make it loud. So they decide to give him a newly developed pill. It's a poison, developed by their organization, left untraceable in the body. He'll be found murdered, and no one will be able to solve it. They give him the pill. They force it down his throat. Jimmy is burning up. The scene fades to black. We come an undetermined amount of time later. Jimmy is found. He is a child. End of File 1, Mystery 1, The Roller Coaster Murder Case. Now, Section 5, Overarching Plot Details. This is the beginning, so there's a lot of establishing that we do in this very first chapter. Just like the first chapter of any series, of any novel, of any book, of any story. You learn a lot about the characters. The mystery is short and sweet and to the point, so you can have more of how they interact, what they do, how they get along, who they are. So here's what we have established so far. Jimmy Kudo is a genius. Genuinely speaking, this kid is really fucking smart. Let us never discount that. Jimmy loves detectives and detective stories, and that is his life goal. He is going to be a detective, not a writer, not an actor, a detective. Rachel and Jimmy are childhood friends. They've known each other a long time. She's tired of hearing about fucking Sherlock Holmes. Rachel seems to believe in Jimmy and have absolutely no reservations about his skills as a detective. She's tired of hearing about his obsession with Sherlock Holmes, but she does believe that he is as smart as he thinks he is. Rachel is captain of the karate club, and she's badass. We love Rachel. Rachel's dad is a PI. Inspector McGuire calls on Jimmy and trusts his skills. So when Jimmy calls on Inspector McGuire, he's there. He doesn't even question it. Jimmy is reckless in his pursuits. He rushes headlong into a situation, not knowing anything about it, not having any backup, just goes for it. And our last establishing plot detail, Jimmy has been turned into a small child. We know this because we can see it. Jimmy has not seen himself. He is in his own head. Obviously, he cannot just be like, oh, I'm a child. What the fuck is this? So, Jimmy does not know that because he just got hit in the head. He just woke up. The police are like, hey, kid, what you doing? And he's like, huh? So, we know Jimmy has been turned into a child. Character development. Pretty big character development, specifically for Jimmy, is that he gets fucking humbled. He gets humbled in a pretty big way. He has never had reason to doubt himself or his skills. Taking pictures of random shady deals without any question, following a man that he has no idea what's going on, that has been acting suspiciously from the moment he was introduced. He's so confident that he shows Rachel fan letters that he's received. Look at how big I am. I am a great detective. Other people know I'm a great detective. They write newspaper articles about me. I have fan letters. He is so confident. And he has never had a reason to be anything else. He has always solved it. He has always been right. And he has never let the criminal get away. All of that confidence meant nothing. He follows someone. He takes pictures. He is confident in what the outcome will be. He gets ambushed. Attempted murder. They try to kill him without question. They give him what they believe is poison to kill him. No questions asked. No talking his way out of it. No amount of being an amazing soccer player has gotten him out of this situation. He's been hit on the head. There's nothing he could do. Humbled. Rachel has a little bit of character development this chapter, but not a whole lot. This chapter really isn't about her. This is her introduction. The focus is Jimmy. How did we get from A to B? We will develop Rachel as a character as the series goes on, but this first chapter, this first case is not about her. I don't think the second one is either, but this first case, it's not about her. So we really don't develop her character a whole lot. Questions. This first chapter is a fucking banger. It is Oh, it's great. A lot of the questions that I have are the questions you're supposed to have. The questions about the mystery so far. Who are the men in black? What is the organization they're from? What is the goal of their organization? And some questions that really don't have anything to do with anything. Why were they on a roller coaster if they were coming to complete a cover-up deal? Why were they on a roller coaster? Why did they get on a roller coaster? They did not make themselves less suspicious, even just being on a roller coaster in trench coats and fedoras. Why were they on a roller coaster? Where are Jimmy's parents? We have mentioned Rachel's dad. We get more information about her mother later on. Where are Jimmy's parents in this first couple of cases? That, like, it goes to a fucking amusement park, gets turned into a child. And for the record, I know this because I have a little bit of foreknowledge because I have read some of this series before. Why do they never report him missing? I have a lot of questions about that. That will come up as we go. Also, relatively unrelated question. Does Jimmy get paid? Does Jimmy get paid? How does that work? What are taxes like in Japan? What are teenage work regulations like in Japan? Can you work for the police in Japan? Can teenagers work for the police in Japan? Like, ethically, chain of evidence wise, bringing a child, because teenagers are still children, to an active crime scene with criminals, as we have proven criminals that are absolutely willing to kill people to cover up their crimes. Honestly, I'm more surprised that this is the first time Jimmy is noted getting absolutely injured. Absolutely fucked up. I need someone who has more knowledge of working regulations for teenagers and the police department in Japan to tell me literally anything about that. I cannot speak on the realism. I do not know. I'm pretty sure no. But if he's a consultant, like, would that be different? Let me know if you live in Japan, I guess. I don't know. Japanese police force and Japanese working regulations is something I know nothing about. Next question. Is Rachel's dad really a bad detective? Is he actually bad at his job, or was Jimmy just throwing shade? And last question that I have for this section. How did Inspector McGuire end up linked with Jimmy? How did he get to the point in his career where he's like, you know what, we're gonna call the kid, he's gonna investigate. No questions. Let him see everything. Talk to suspects. I wrote concepts, it's supposed to say suspects. Do fun, quippy demonstrations. How did we get to that point? What do you think his career was like outside of that? Do you think he ever had an existential crisis about this fucking teenager solving cases and he's just here like, I trained for this. like, do you imagine that ever runs through his head? We're gonna find out. In conclusion, the beginning of Case Closed, also known as Detective Conan, is, in my opinion, amazing. Let's talk about some storytelling techniques in this work and see how they work. First, we have an exciting opening. We have an enticing opening. Jimmy is solving a murder. He is in the middle of actively catching a killer. He is in the middle of the action. His skills are on display. We don't get exposition about him being good at soccer. We just show that he is. Jimmy has done the morally right thing. He solved the day. He caught a murderer. As readers, we're invested. That makes us root for him. Oh yeah, good. Good, catch the murderer. Fuck him. What comes after? What is this teenager? Does he solve murders often? He points to the killer without a shadow of a doubt in himself. How did he get to be that way? We have questions. It's a pull. It's enticing. It's great. Immediately after, the chapter begins. We get some establishing information about the characters, about the world they're in, character relationships, even some more about the characters themselves. In these first couple of scenes, we learn about Jimmy and Rachel's friendship. We learn about Jimmy's self-confidence. Rachel is shown to lose her temper when Jimmy insults her father. That's important. Jimmy talks so much about Sherlock Holmes, so much. We get a true understanding of exactly how obsessed he is with Sherlock Holmes and Conan Doyle as an author. Rachel has won a tournament. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. She has already won. She was so confident in her winning that she had Jimmy agree to take her to the amusement park to celebrate. And he does. Just the two of them. We learn all of this just watching the characters interact. This isn't their dialogue. This isn't how they interact. There isn't exposition about what's happening. They tell us what they're doing. The characters already exist in their world. They are already established in their world. Rachel has already won a karate tournament. She doesn't need you to watch her grow to win. She has already won. She is already at that point. Jimmy is already an established detective. He works with the police. We don't need to watch him come up. He's reading a newspaper article about himself being an amazing teenage detective. We are plopped into their world. Just watching how they interact with it, how they interact with each other. In storytelling, how characters interact with each other tells you so much about them without... It's the show don't tell thing. We aren't being told Jimmy and Rachel are friends. Jimmy and Rachel like each other. Jimmy and Rachel this. We are being shown Jimmy and Rachel are friends. They are so comfortable with each other that Jimmy is comfortable making fun of her father. Rachel is comfortable telling him to mind his fucking business. That's a level of comfort that you don't get with casual acquaintances. It's a great way to give you who a character is, how they react to anger or irritation, how close they are with each other without telling you. Just showing you. You promised to take me to the amusement park, remember? In one of Jimmy's little thought bubbles, he says, "How could I forget?" Jimmy, you crushing. It's great. Character interactions throughout this series are mostly really done well, in my opinion. There's some that are a lot. There's a specific arc that I'm thinking of, and we'll talk more when we get there. I will make note of it. Why does incest come up so much in manga? It's not a lot in this one. It's not like all the time. But it does come up at least once. At least once. Why does it keep coming up? Why does incest keep coming up? Either way, the characters almost always end up being the focus of the stories that Aoyama is telling. Who did it? Why did they do it? These are some of the more important questions that he focuses on. He does focus on some really cool closed-door murders, as we will see later on. There are absolutely times where you're like, I love detective stories. But overall, the focus is on the characters. Who was murdered? Why were they murdered? Who did it? Why did they do it? How did they try to hide what they did? And what was their motivation for hiding it? In the case of Hitomi, she wanted Aiko to suffer as much as she did. She was heartbroken and she wanted to share that heartbreak with somebody else. Granted, I think breaking up with a guy is not a great reason to murder someone and frame someone else for murder, but that's besides the point. I love character focus in a story. I love it. Personally, I love a story that is character-driven, and I would argue a lot of these cases are character-driven. We will talk a lot about characters as we move through this series. We will talk about characters so much, we will never stop talking about characters. For manga specifically, the storytelling is a visual medium. Throughout the series, the visual scenes are amazing. Jimmy's face, Rachel's face, the other characters. The mangaka does expression so well. I will put up some examples that I think are great over here. I think over here is going to be where I do any kind of like pictures that I want to screen cap from the series. There will not be a lot of screenshots from the series because I think it is very important that you go and read it yourself. I will do a deep dive, I will give you a summary of what's happening, of why it happened, but I still think it's worth reading yourself. Body language is done so well in this series. You get Hitomi falling to her knees, collapsing, broken, because she's been caught. Jimmy is relentlessly telling her what he knows, how he figured it out, what she's done. He does not let her forget what she's done. It breaks her. And we see her body language is broken. There's a great focus in this manga on body language and how it reflects what a character is feeling. There's also some times that I'll have to gather some information because this is a translated work. With translations, you have to keep in mind the original cultural context. I don't know the original cultural context of being Japanese, so there are some times where I will have to do some Googling and reading. Anytime that I have to do research about something, I will include sources in the description box. Another fun thing that we will probably talk more about in relation to visual storytelling is the panels. So in manga, you have each panel. It's a square, everything goes in the square. This mangaka is comfortable with having things outside of that panel. I'll give a few examples here. We will see it as the story goes on. He is not restricted to just the box that he's supposed to be drawing in. I love it. I love Aoyama as a mangaka, personally. Either way, I'm excited to go through this series that I love. Mystery by mystery with anyone that decides to watch these videos. I do recommend starting at the beginning, so this is the beginning. Case 1, Mystery 1, File 1. And it will most likely make sense to watch them in succession. The introduction is probably not necessary, but does add a little bit of context. And I will see you all in Case Closed, Mystery 2. I'm Tiffany. This is Read by T-Rex, and here we read things. Today we have read Mystery 1 Roller Coaster Murder Case of Case Closed. Join me next time for Case 2.